one of America's most notorious serial killers, a true representation of wickedness, or the very definition of heartless evil, as attorney Polly Nelson described. My name is Sarah Grace, and today I will be telling you about this heartless evil, more known as Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy had an interesting background, which may or may not have led to his wicked ways that I will be reviewing shortly. I took a particular interest in Ted Bundy's story when I first saw the Ted Bundy tapes paired with learning about serial killers in my psychology class last spring. I want to share this because it is always important to learn about dangers like Ted Bundy. There's a picture of Theodore Robert Bundy. Ted Bundy has an interesting story from the beginning. He was born in Vermont to his mother, Eleanor Louise Cowell, and his father unknown. His grandparents were ashamed that their daughter was pregnant out of wedlock, so they raised Bundy as their own. He even believed his mother was his sister for almost all of his childhood. It's known that he and his mother were both beaten by his grandfather, causing her to take Ted and run away, later marrying a man and giving Ted his last name, Bundy. Reports from people who knew Bundy in high school said that he was very well known and well liked. He was accepted into the University of Puget Sound Law School in 1973, and after a few months he stopped attending classes. Then, in January of 1974, disappearances began. His first known attack wasn't a murder, though. It was an assault on an 18-year-old named Karen Sparks, and he left her in a 10-day coma with permanent disabilities. A month later, his first confirmed murder was committed. He continued to target female students in the area of the University of Washington. He would lure many women to his car by wearing a cast on his arm and pretending like he needed their help putting something into his car. This was before he would knock them out, bind and kill them, dumping their bodies in a determined location, and in some cases keeping his victims' skulls in his apartment. The ultimate possession was, in fact, the taking of the life, Bundy once said, and then the physical possession of the remains. Shockingly evil, right?
Right.
It shouldn't be a shock that people were relieved of his capture on August 6, 1975, for failure to stop at a stop sign, believe it or not. But it didn't stop his killings as he escaped from custody twice. Just 6 months after his first escape, Bundy escaped again from a small crawl space he made with a hacksaw. And 2 weeks after his escape, on January 15, 1978, he broke into the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State. He killed Margaret Bowen and Lisa Levy, knocking them out with firewood and strangling them with stockings. He then assaulted Kathy Kleiner and Karen Chandler Both of these girls suffered from terrible injuries, including missing teeth and broken jaws. He then broke into an apartment that night belonging to Cheryl Thomas and beat her up to the point where she lost her hearing permanently. 2 weeks later, he abducted a 12-year-old named Kimberly Diane Leach from her school and killed her, hiding her body at a pig farm. He was eventually caught again for driving irresponsibly. Throughout his trial, he set himself up for failure by ignoring the advice of his team and taking charge of his own defense. Even those who worked with him couldn't stand the guy. A quote by investigator Joseph Olai said, "I would describe him as being as close to being like the devil as anyone I ever met." Ultimately, Bundy was convicted and placed on death row in Florida. There, while in prison, he was abused from other prisoners, some sources say. While he was on trial, he conceived a child with Carol Ann Booth and also married her while on trial. Ted Bundy was finally executed on January 24th, 1989 by the electric chair. It isn't surprising that hundreds of people gathered outside the courthouse to celebrate his execution. For everything he did to the girls, I feel the electric chair is too good for him, said Eleanor Rose, the mother of one of Ted Bundy's victims. In conclusion, over the course of 5 years, Bundy's murders spread terror through Oregon, Utah, Idaho, Colorado, Florida, and the areas surrounding them. Ultimately, all of this has led authorities to suspect Bundy killed anywhere from 30 to 40 women, making him one of the most infamous and terrifying serial killers in American history, according to the ATI. I hope those of you who have never heard of Ted Bundy got to learn a little bit more about him today. Thank you for listening.